Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Coach Timmy and today I'm going to go through my Season 17 FNCS predictions. I'd need to look over my Season 16 predictions to see how I did last season, but I always think it's good fun to do this, so let's get into the video. So the way I'm going to do this is do my top 3 for every region and then 2 teams that I think will overperform or essentially just do better than people might be expecting them to do or push that top 3. So starting with my home region, I'm going to go with a top 3 of Jinx, Alec and Worthy, Suns, Jace, and Vortex, and Sync, Volks, and Radius, and that's a pretty stacked top 3. There are obviously other teams out there that I suspect could push into the top 3, and the other 2 teams that I sort of more look at as wild cards or teams who could also push that sort of range are Sorrow, Fishes, and Raikou, and Oreo, Daneth, and Cork. Now, Oreo, Daneth, and Cork have been one of those teams that is consistently placing in Cash Cups. Obviously, Cash Cups in OCE are extremely different to FNCS, but those guys have shown that they have the talent to do it at every stage of the game, both early, mid, and late. And then everyone knows a lot about the top 3 there. I think the one team that really could surprise us is Suns, Jace, and Vortex. Vortex has been on an absolute tear this season. Probably one of the standout performers, not just in the region, but actually in Fortnite in general. Consistent placements across all Cash Cups. Absolutely smashed first week qualifiers along with his team. And I think they're probably coming into this the favourites, according to most people if you asked. Suns has made his way from being relatively average to being one of the best IGLs and fraggers in the region. And having an IGL who can basically do anything like Suns can is really, really powerful for them. So keep an eye out for them. Obviously, you guys know how Jinx, Alec, and Worthy play. We've seen them do it for 3-4 seasons at this point. Sync, Volks, and Radius is going to be an interesting one to watch as well. Sorrow, Fishes, and Raikou I expect to do well simply because it's 3 really, really good players. And Sorrow, I think, is also another one of those top tier IGLs that always knows where to put his team at the right points. So that's my top 3 and then 2 extra teams on OCE. Let's get into EU and some of the more interesting regions. The thing with EU is you could pick a bunch of teams and actually be fine with the decisions that you've made. My top 3 is obviously going to be pretty stacked, but the thing is you could interchange it with so many different teams. It's all down to personal opinion. My personal top 3 is Hen, Chapix, and Janice, Veno, Resin, and Tayson, and Seti, Cammy, and Teak. I said a while back that I reckon Seti, Cammy, and Teak are going to take it this season. I still stick by that. Reason being, I reckon they have that consistent play style down. They are finally in finals after missing it last season. I reckon they're going to make the world realize just how damn good they are. Earlier on this season, I called them the centered, edgy, and commandment of EU, and I think they're going to show how that consistency can really pull them through to the top of the leaderboard. Hen, Chapitz, and Janice, obviously, everyone knows how good they are. I shouldn't really have to go in depth about why I've picked them. And same with Veno, Tayson, and Resin. Obviously, everyone knows the amount of talent on that team. It just comes down to whether or not they can do it on the day, and obviously, we all know that those 3 teams can. But the thing is, I'm missing off names like Indretta, Savage, and Refsguard. So to hold off so many big names like that. Now, for the other 2 teams that I think could really push something in terms of top 5 or just something that's really interesting to watch, I really think we have to keep an eye out for Vidal, Noah, and Aqua. Of course, everyone knows where they're going to be every game. They're going to try and be contesting for height. Wave high ground and always on height. Where do you expect him to be? And another team I think we should keep an eye out for is Benji, Joe, and Savage. These guys qualified week 1. They did it easily. I think Benji swapping teammates was a good idea. He seems to really work well with these guys. Watching back their VODs, everything was clicking for them. They're on point. And when these guys are on point, I really do think they're one of the best teams in Europe. Now, one of the teams I've left off here is obviously the ex-FNCS champs. I'm really interested to see how they go this time round. But like I've said, you could pick so many different teams from this region and explain your reasoning really, really well. You got to think, other teams like Anderlecht, Xwiz, and 4ZR, that's a really, really top tier team right there that I haven't even talked about. Then Amplify, Matzo, and ADN. Or, again, another really top-tier team that I haven't even covered. And one of those big teams that I'm expecting to do well, Clement, Deceptos, and Floki, another really good team. And that is why EU is just the best region to watch, because there's so many teams, there's so many players who you can cover and explain why you think that they could win. I'm really excited to watch EU this weekend. Let's get into NA East. So NA East, I've got 3 teams here that I think are going to do really well. My top 3 is Centered, Edgy, Commandment, Degen, Ages, and Skittles, and Reverse, Mero, and Day. And of course, Reverse, Mero, and Day, we don't have to talk too much about them. 2 times FNCS champs. Degen, Ages, and Skittles, I think, are one of the best teams that is hardly ever talked about. These guys consistently have placed for the last couple of seasons. always at the top of every leaderboard. When they play other regions, they do well as well. Obviously have really good grasp of fundamentals, how to play high ground, mid ground, and low ground at high levels. They seem to really work well together. The chemistry is insane to watch. If you haven't heard Skittles comms before, it's really worth checking out. And then, of course, Scented Edge Commandment, I have to say this is the season. It's got to be the season where they break the second place curse. I'm praying for them, fingers crossed. In terms of the other two teams, I've more picked sleeper teams that I think could really, really do well. Last season, I picked Pamsto, Fetch, and WCarry, and that was definitely a sleeper pick last season. It's no longer a sleeper pick. Everyone knows just how good these guys are. Pamsto, of course, winning All-Stars, but then WCarry and Fetch have really shown how good they can be in a team setting, as these guys have continued to run through the region and really consistently look to place this season. My other team was Rokane, Mega, and Dubs, and this is an interesting pick. The reason I went with it is because these guys are so experienced. I really think we could see them up in the top 5 or up in the top 3 even if they really make a push, just because they understand how to play the game. They've been playing it for so long. They probably don't feel the pressure like other teams might. I just think we could see these guys do something different or do something a little bit more interesting this season, so keep an eye out for them. Now, the last region that I'll really talk about in depth is NA West, and it's hard to go on this with a straight face. Who do you think I'm going to pick to win? Of course, it's Epic, Arc, and Rex. Nothing needed to spoke about at all. I think they'll probably win it fairly comfortably, but the run for 2nd through to 5th is actually pretty damn good to look at. You've got a really good host of teams that are really, really solidly built around good principles. I'm talking about teams like Reet, Falconer, and Chris, Kenji, Favs, and Snacky, who ended up coming 2nd last season, Wavy Jacob, J Roses, and Regulator, and Symmetrical, Frappi, and Alithi. There are so many decent teams that I've just worded out, and I haven't even talked about 40R's team, Yelty's team, or Temple, Bizku, and Power. So I think there's going to be a serious jockeying for even anywhere down to 7th place even. We could see some really good fights. Of course, like I said, I think first is going to be taken. I think it's going to be taken fairly simply. Please, Epic, Rex, and Arc, go to NA East. Please, guys, I want to see you take on a different region. I think everyone knows you could do big things over there. Step out your comfort zone. Let's see it happen. But yeah, I'm really excited to watch NA West, actually, simply because I really think the battle for 2nd through 7th is going to be an absolutely amazing one to watch with all of those teams I just mentioned. Now, I'm going to lump a few of these last regions together, sorry. This is simply because I don't know as much about them as I should, and I don't want to give you guys a top 5 when I actually don't really know much about the region and just act like I know when I really don't. So for Brazil, I've got a couple of teams that, of course, I think are going to do well, and I don't think it's going to be any surprise to anyone. I've got Kadu, Seun, and King. Of course, I think these guys are going to do well. Won last season. They've proven season after season after season that they can be at the top of their game and win FNCSs fairly comfortably. But of course, I can't count out Frosty, Kurtz, and Ridley. These guys actually won one of the seasons prior, unseating King and the dominant reign he'd had over the region for a wee while. So this battle here is actually something that I've documented in the past. You can see Frosty versus King is a video that I personally did on my channel a while back. So what I'm hoping for is another big battle here in the finals. It should be good to watch. In Asia, I've got 2 teams specifically that I'm looking out for. Wildhawk, Bob, and Malfin are really, really entertaining to watch. Wildhawk is one of the biggest content creators / pro players on the Asian region. Fairly similar playstyle to Reet, extremely entertaining to watch. And then when you pair him with Bob and Malfin, who have always been at the top of their game or at the top of the region in Asia, you're going to get a really, really good team. So I'm keeping an eye out for them. And then, of course, it's really hard to not keep an eye on FaZe and Joyza. Again, I still don't know how to pronounce their third's name, but last season I predicted them to do well. They ended up coming 2nd. I expect to see similar things from them this season as well. But those 2 specifically are who I'm going to be keeping an eye on. I'm upset that I'm going to be doing a viewing party because I actually really want to pay attention to the broadcast for Asia. I think it'll be really entertaining to watch. So if you want to learn a little bit more about the Asian region, go check out their broadcast. They've actually got one. I'm fairly certain it's streamed on YouTube, but check it out. I think it should be pretty good to watch. Now, last but not least, we've got Middle East, and I have to admit, Middle East is the region I know the least about. I'm not going to beat around the bush there. I've got some good mates from Middle East, but that doesn't mean I keep up with the scene, unfortunately. So I've got 2 teams that I know are good that I'm always going to be looking for. Hell on Steam, XJam, and Murloc. I expect to see these guys in the top 5 at least. I actually did a viewing party for their heat, and I watched them a little bit. I think they made a few simple mistakes here and there, but their fundamentals were really, really good to watch. And anytime I see strong fundamentals, I expect to see really good finals performances. And of course, it's really hard to count out Kuki, Phantom, and Nile. They didn't top 3 last season after winning the previous, so they had to qualify through qualifiers. But I expect to see these guys up the top, just like we did a few seasons ago. Maybe not winning, but definitely up in the top 5 sort of range. So those are my predictions, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know who you're looking out for in different regions. And enjoy finals week. It should be a good one. Catch you later, guys.